Hello everyone, Creator of Snap Test here. Again, this is a kind of a second part in a series on how to use components. In the last tutorial we talked about how to make the login process a reusable component so you don't have to keep doing it over and over again in different tests. So in this one we're going to show you how to use variables, component variables, both default and instance ones. So I'm going to continue to use our hologram dashboard as the way to illustrate this. So I'm going to open up Snap Test in the DevTools. And from here, what we're going to do is enhance this login component so that we can insert variables into it. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new test first, and this new test will be testing login failure. And I want to reuse this currently successful login process. So let's go into login failure and start recording on the login screen. And the idea is to test if a user puts in a bad email. So in this case, I'm going to stop recording and add a custom action here and select the component type and bring up the login component. Right now, if I hit run, it's going to use the hard-coded embedded temp account Gmail, which is actually a good one. And we don't want that. We want to put in a bad email and one that doesn't have an account yet, and it's going to bring up this invalid email or password. This is what we'd like to test. So, in order to accomplish this, we're going to need to enter the component. You can enter it by hitting this edit button over here, or you can go back and click on it from the dashboard. So we're going to enter it here, and you may have noticed, but there are some icons next to these values. These target icons, if they're next to a value like this means you can convert them into variables. So in this case, I'm going to hit this button, and this is going to do a change here. It's going to put this variable pair up at the top and change the value to some sort of templating syntax. Now up here at the top we have the variable name and a value, and in this case the value is going to be the default that tests will go to for this variable. So this is the email, so we're just going to call it email. And down here in the email, or I'm sorry, in the value, we're going to update this templating syntax to match it. So now, if I run this, actually let's put a breakpoint on the first step so we can step over and see. So instead of putting this weird templating syntax of email, it's going to replace it with the default, or the value of the variable up at the top, which is the default. So stepping over, and I don't actually want to log in here, so I'm going to clear it. And we can do the same for password, even though for this tutorial we don't really need to. Call this password and change this to password as well. Alright, now this makes an interesting effect. So I'm going to go back to the test, this login failure test, and you can see that this line has changed. Login now has two variables. When you were in the component, you were viewing the default values for the variables. But when you view it as an action line like this, the variables are instance variables. And they, of course, start on the default, but then you can change them to whatever you want, which will override the default that is within the component. So now, if I were to run this, it will fill in with the instance variable. That way, I have just changed the login by injecting a different variable into it, overriding the default one, and it allows me to put in a bad email. But at the same time, in the previous tests, the tests that we had done before, it's going to keep the default one. So this one is a successful email. So if I run this guy, this test still passes just fine. This makes things a lot more composable. And this is going to be extended in the future for snap tests. There's going to be booleans you can pass in, different values than just strings, probably integers, and maybe some others we find useful. But it's just to give you more control over what the component does. Now, if I wanted to, I wanted to continue and assert that the proper error message appeared on this test, I run it, hit the assert mode button, assert that this text appeared, and we have a negative test case successfully passing. So that is component variables, both default and instance. Hope you find this this feature as handy and as helpful as I have, and we look forward to adding a ton more functionality to components in the future. And in the meantime, happy testing and have a great day.